Why do you build me up? Buttercup, baby, just to let me down and mess me around, and the worst of all.
Count, Cookie Monster. I'll find out, I'll tell you later. I have to ask management, and thank you. And the new ride is going to be called Flying Turns. Flying Turns 2. Guys, thank you for having me back. I mean, we're a tiny little park, and, oh, how did it move? And, it was awesome being here last year. It's awesome to be invited. It's awesome to hang out with all of you, with all the presenters. You know, I was talking with Wes and Jeff and Brian and everybody, and we were saying how, you know, you get worn down sometimes, and coming to these events and speaking with you and speaking with the fellow presenters and everyone from the parks, it kind of recharges your batteries, you know? It kind of reminds you why we do what we do. Because it's hard, you know, I spend a lot of time away from my family, but doing it for you guys kind of makes me feel better about it. You know, when I was younger, I'm a mechanic. You know, this is fun for me, but my main role is I'm a mechanic. That's my number one thing at the park. And I did that because my father did it, and I wanted to make him proud. And now he's getting older and more bitter, so there's not, you know, aside from the dogs, his kids don't really do it for him anymore. But it's nice to be able to do it for all of you. So thank you for, and people like Jolene, like that, just seeing that is like, yes, it's worth it. And what was really worth it for me this year was having everybody over for Preservation Conference. So thank you for thinking of us. Thank you. It was the second best day I ever had at the park. I'll get into that later, but Preservation Conference felt like I had a bunch of my friends over after school. And like I made sure that everybody stayed late and cleaned all the seats and made sure everything looked good and worked well. So you know, it was fun. It was my friends coming over after school, so it was like my time to shine. And I wanted to say I come from a Greek family, so there you go. And what the Greeks do usually, the joke is they get off the boat, two Greeks meet, they open a diner. But I guess my grandfather didn't find any other Greeks to meet, but he still had a family, and instead of working at the diner, he made that family work at the park. So when we had Preservation Conference and, you know, we didn't have much of a budget for the signage, I realized that my family has a history of child labor. Incorporated my kids into it. So yeah, that's our way to solve that labor shortage and keep the rides going. Just don't tell the labor department. Anyway, during Preservation Conference, we gave out buttons, we gave out hot dogs, we set up signage everywhere. Another sign, and that's the MVP of the park. The unseen hero is my mother, Stacy. She's gonna hate that I put this in there. Don't tell her, but she's the best. She's the heart and soul of the park. So she goes that extra mile to make things look as good as we can make it look. Because you know we can't do much, but she does the best she can, the best we can do. We set up a tent. We did coasters and cupcakes. Tried to make y'all throw up on a coaster, couldn't make it happen. But, we tried. And we also put little Easter eggs throughout the park, little ace signs, you know, in our haunted house. And my mother actually came up with a cool trick. She takes the paper and soaks it in coffee beans and makes it kind of look weathered. So that's a cool little trick. But we had some holograms throughout the dark ride. We just tried to make you guys feel welcome the way you make me feel welcome. So thank you again. It meant a lot to me that you guys picked our park. So thank you. And what was cool about Preservation Conference is you guys got to experience Coney Island the way I think people need to experience Coney Island. Coney Island's two different parks. There's us, which is like that small park surrounded by Luna Park. And the Acers got to come see us work together. And that's what ACE means. I mean, that's what I take from this organization. It's not just coaster enthusiasts, but you guys are enthusiastic about the world, about working together. And you made us work together, and you made that day so special, not just for you, but for the two businesses next door. We got to work together, and it made us think, you know, maybe we can do more of that in the future. And I'm not saying stay tuned, we haven't had that conversation yet. I would personally love if we can find a way to combine the parks. But I shouldn't tell you that, that's a management thing. But yeah, Preservation Conference was great. You had Adventureland in Long Island, you had Ride Playland, and you had Luna Park in Deno. So it was an honor to be among those parks. So thank you again. And that's the school picture, the class photo. So that's what it felt like. It felt like my yearbook shot with like my school, and I was like, yay! One thing that we did this year, nothing like Dollywood, but my grandfather, not the one who was part of the Wonder Wheel, my mother's father, and she married into the family. She opened a free little library. He was a school teacher, John Aristotle Spanos. If you can't get a more Greek name than that, I don't know. But he was a big influence on my life. He was a teacher, and he showed me the power and the importance of books. You know, education can only get you so far. Being able to pick a book and choose what you want to learn and where you want to go, just by opening a book, you know, it meant a lot to me growing up. And you know, in an amusement park, you know, we were able to grab people's attention. We're able to get kids when they're at their most excited, and to be able to make reading cool and just make it an option. Like, oh look, there's free books there. It's just one extra thing we can do to try to, you know, make the next generation smarter. And again, how do we start the book? Free child labor. There's a labor shortage, so I use them whenever I can. They should have kids. I mean, you know, we have the labor shortage, but my wife said she was tired. That was it. She couldn't do anymore. We also bought the Brooklyn Public Library in, and they were signing kids up for library cards on the spot. So before they went on the Wonder Wheel, we'd ask them, hey, do you have a library card? Most of these kids, I can't believe, they didn't even know what a library was. Like, we don't live in an affluent area, but just being able to show people you don't need to have an Amazon account to be able to pick up a book. So we were able to sign people up. That's my father and my uncle, and they signed their grandkids up for library cards. So that was a special day for me too, just to be able to think about my grandfather and what books meant to him, and be able to, you know, pay that forward. So we can't announce any new coasters or anything because, you know, we're not building any. But I figured I could talk about some fun stuff, maybe 3D printing, some things that we do different that I thought might be interesting. So, for example, we have certain rides that the manufacturer messes up. So if you look at this over here, this is a caster with a shoulder bushing, and you see how close the steel is to that. And it's a manufacturing defect. We were getting a lot of heat because the steel was rubbing on the hub and it was creating a lot of metal filings. We had this ride for 2 weeks, and I started changing about 2 to 4 bearings every week, and it was brand new. So what we do is, those are the old bushings. You see how thin they were? And they were breaking. They weren't strong enough, number one. Number two, they were too thin. They were wobbling inside that housing. If you look when I put it inside the bearing, it's not rendering great, but there's a lot of play there. Not the way it should have been. So we redesigned it, 3D printed it, made them thicker, tightened up the tolerance in the bearing. We also use a special kind of plastic that kind of slips. It's like a polyethylene kind of thing, and if the bearing ever were to fail, the bushing would act as a bearing. So it kind of takes the load off the bearing. It works better with the summer temperatures. And sorry, it's jittering on us, but you can see it's taking forever. It's the rendering. But yeah, so if the bearing ever failed, it would still be able to spin. So instead of changing 2 a week, this video is from 2016. It's 2024. I haven't changed one since.
Wow.
Damn. I mean, it's not big. I mean, that machine, you can tell it's an old video because it's not an iPhone, it's an old Nexus. It's having a real hard time focusing. Y'all spoiled with your new phones. But this is in 2016 when, you know, we didn't have all that. But that's the difference. So I took this year. Same one I put in 2016. You see the extra space, and the bearings, they still work well. Here's another 3D printed part coming through. Skip it. And that's just for a horn holder. They used to be sharp edges on them the way they were originally designed. So I just 3D printed new ones. And there it is coming off the machine there. And here it is in CAD. And I can print it with the threads inside, which is pretty cool. So after it comes off of the machine, it comes with threads. I can just put it on the ride and just put screws right through. I don't have to tap these holes. And another cool thing about 3D printing is I don't need to stock parts. I just have them in the software here. And if I need something, I can turn on the computer, put a spool of whatever kind of plastic I'm using, and just print it. So it saves a lot of space on the shelf. Here's an old ride from 1986 that, stay tuned, might go away soon. I'm not allowed to talk about it. It might be an SPF spinner, but we're still working on it. But I'm not allowed to talk about it. Totally get fired if I even say it's an SPF spinner, but it might not be. It really might not be. I don't know. We had the conversation last week, but I'm telling you, but don't tell anybody. I could get grounded or something. So here's that piece over here. It's just in there. This piece is also 3D printed. It used to be round. I made it square because kids used to use it as like a handrail, and they would fall because as it was round, it would just turn on the corner. So by making it square, it kind of locks itself in, and we have less trips and falls getting in and out of the car. And up on top, we have the LEDs. This is from 1986. They didn't have LEDs back then, so I just 3D printed like an adapter bracket. And, now it's LED. This is a brake fin on a Sea Serpent Miler coaster. This piece right here, that blue piece up there, sorry, I gotta switch my laser. That's a 3D printed piece of plastic. As the train goes into the station, depending on the load, it's always going to be a little different, left or right. So these brake fins are designed to pivot a little, like a 1/4 of an inch. A 1/4 of an inch was a little too sloppy for my taste, so I 3D printed my own isolators here. So now it only moves like 1/8 of an inch, and I get more even wear on both sides of the brake. So that's just another, not really a redesign of what the manufacturer had, but just a tightening of the tolerances. That's a 3D printed bell holder. The curved edges are a lot stronger than sharp edges, so and it looks kind of cooler than the original design. 3D printed, these are for sensors, but I can countersink the holes in the printer, and instead of needing 2 people to install and take it apart, you only need 1 person now, because the screw kind of is countersunk with the plastic. Here's the CAD software. You can see how I can manipulate it, and I can draw letters on it, and I can change how the threads are done. And it's just kind of changed a lot of the way we do maintenance, because a lot of our rides, there's no manufacturer anymore. So I would always suggest, as anyone who's in a park knows, you go to the manufacturer, or you ask permission. It's not like marriage where you can just ask for forgiveness. But so, I'll get into that later. But there's an idea of drawing the threads. So we switched from a paper ticket to a digital ticket. So this year I got you all the last lot of paper tickets that we had. So they're good for 5 rides in our park. And I decided to give you those because number one, I think you'll appreciate it. Even if you don't go to the park, you'll have these old paper tickets that are ancient now. And they're also inflation proof. Like when you go to Disney with an old ticket and they begrudgingly have to take it. And then the stock goes down like 20%. But anyway, we switched to a digital system. They swore to us that they would be fine outdoors. 2 weeks later, they all started failing. So we 3D printed kind of covers, and this came off the printer too. I just printed a junction box with a cover, and then it kind of screwed it all together. So all the wire, and it's a neater install than what they provided for us, and because it has the shield on top, they last 3 years now. They don't last forever, but they last better than 2 weeks. Another cool thing we can do is we can make templates on the machine. So if we have to drill hole patterns that are similar, we can just make it on the printer, make the template, print it out, and then just put it to the wall and just screw your holes. So they still fail, and instead of the ride being down because our scanners don't work, we made a portable version, and it's using drill batteries. Those are Milwaukee drill batteries, because that's what I use in my toolbox. So I made sure it worked with the old drill batteries that we have. And 3D printed that is the dorkiest picture. My wife saw that, she would have married me. But, oh man, forget it. Anyway, moving on. So another use of the 3D printer is sometimes manufacturers don't think of the maintenance guys. And this is a shooter for one of our dark rides. And on the bottom, the camera that does the lining up of the laser is well braced here on the bottom, but the top only had this thin little piece of plastic, which used to break constantly. When that plastic breaks, the camera tilts forward, rubs on the lens, breaks, and aside from that, you're shooting straight, and your cursor is down and to the right. So, bad guest experience, and a lot more work for me. So what we did is just 3D print our own little piece of plastic in there, something so simple. Another cool thing that we did, here, I need your help with this. I'm a big space person. In the 1960s, NASA was worried that astronauts wouldn't be able to log their notes in space because the pens wouldn't write zero gravity, right? So they spent millions of dollars making a pen that would work in zero G. What did the Soviets do?
Pencil.
I knew you, my fellow. I'm so proud. But yes, I used a pencil. So, the way this is designed, there is a trigger here. The trigger hits a micro switch. The micro switch tells the computer that the gun's being fired. That micro switch would last anywhere from 2 days to 2 hours. It was horrible because people would just keep hitting the trigger. So I called the manufacturer. I said, look, this is a problem. Like, I'm constantly, my life is changing these triggers. They said, yes, we know there's a problem there. We have a new system now. There's this laser, and the laser senses the position of the trigger, and there's no moving parts. You'll never have to change another trigger. I'm like, great, I'll take it. They said $50,000. They said, I don't have any more kids. So that wasn't gonna work. So I basically used a pencil. They saw there was already a spring there. I took out the micro switch there, and I soldered one end of the wire to the top of the spring, put a metal plate on the bottom with the wire, and when the trigger's pressed, the spring hits the plate. I haven't changed one in 8 years. Better than 2 hours. But that's, it's simple. It's simple. Like, they spent all this time and research and money making a laser that can tell you where it is, where sometimes a simple way is the best way. Cool use of the 3D printer is a go, no-go gauge, we call it in the industry, and it kind of tells you where, like, not where, but like where on a wheel. So, for example, this is on our fake Phoenix, right? Mr. Knoble, it's the fake Phoenix. But I'm supposed, yes? He's standing right here so he can throw tomatoes at me later. But yes, we're supposed to measure wear on the diameter, right? So every 2 millimeters of wear, I'm supposed to put a shim. So if you look at the wheels, what I mean by wear is right here on the running surface. These wheels eventually wear down. So what I'm supposed to do, as per the manufacturer, is measure the diameter. But in order to measure the diameter, I got to take the wheel out. So I said, you know what, why don't I, instead of 2 millimeters from here to here, why don't I just measure wear in one spot, or 1 millimeter? So that's what this does. There's two sides. One has 1 millimeter, one has 2 millimeters. So I put that across. That's the prototype, but the new ones I messed up. I made longer. And I put that on the wheel, and if it's touching the wheel, then I know we're good. If it's not touching, then I've got to put a shim. So you see the wear on the wheel, you see the shim going in to make up the wear on the wheel. And that's the secret of keeping a coaster smooth, is when the maintenance is up on that, and they make sure they keep those wheels tight on the track. So, you lose a little speed, so there's kind of like a happy balance. During the preservation conference, I took a couple of the shims out so that we could speed up the coaster for you. I figured you'd appreciate that more than a smooth ride. Another thing we did is, during COVID, we were closed for 18 months. So we had a whole shop with nothing to do, and like so many other people during that time, we didn't know what to do. We only knew what we could do. And we had a machine shop, and there were people 3D printing face shields. So we started doing that. So I'll talk because the volume's not working, but that's print getting started. And when we first started doing this, I was making between 1 and 5 face shields a day. Between figuring out different ways to print stuff and figuring out faster ways to manipulate the laser to cut the shield part, we went from printing, I'm serious, like 5 a day. The last 2 weeks that we were doing it, before the hospitals can get masks, we were doing over 150 a day. And we got the VA got shields, the Coney Island Hospital got shields, the nursing homes got shields. But you can see that, you can set the power. So I'm only firing at 20% at full speed. I put, there's a fan in that laser. And what the fan was doing was it was blowing all the plastic everywhere, and it was slowing me down. So that's why I put the plate there, the weight. But then I got tired of that, it was slowing me down. So I used the laser to cut a piece of wood as a template. And that's what it's doing now, it's cutting a template. So now, that's the laser firing. Every time I hit it, I thought I was on the Death Star, ready to blow Alderaan or something. But that's a piece of plastic in the template now, which is, countersunk, so it's not going to fly away when the fan hits it, and you can see how the laser is going to cut the shape. And then I lowered the power from 20% to 18% because it wouldn't cut all the way through now at 18% and make cleanup easier. So that when I pick up the film, sorry, I'm a little ahead of the video. But when I pick up the film, instead of, it's still on there, and I can just break it apart with my hand, and that made cleanup so much easier. Instead of spending 5 minutes between cuts cleaning it, I'd spend 10 seconds. And you can just see it just pops right out. So little things like that just help speed up the process and get us to 150 a day instead of 5. One thing we did is we took the fake Phoenix and added lights to it. And another thing, I said, we were going to do KCL. Thanks to you guys, you all told me, go to KCL, go to KCL. And I said, yeah, we're going to go to KCL. And then KCL showed us how much it was going to cost. So we did it in-house. And we did what we could. My father was like, yeah, you got to figure it out, kid. So I ended up getting COVID like a while back. And instead of being able to rest, he made me study LED patterns. But we got it done. So I built the brackets for it. I put it all together, figured out what we needed, but then I needed more help. I needed someone to paint them. I told you preservation conference was my second favorite day at work. This was my first. He was supposed to be in school. I was supposed to take him to school. We're driving to work, he goes, Mommy's supposed to pick me up. I'm like, damn it, that's right. Like, now I gotta tell her. That was a fun conversation, but again, always easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. But seriously, it was like one of the best days of my life to have my son there, just, because I did that with my father. I mean, back then I used to miss like 100 days of school. And it was leaded paint, so that's why I'm a little... My wife said, is that lead? I was like, no. I don't think so. But anyway, and there the lights are all painted and done, but it was the best day. So here, I gotta share this with you. I don't know if let's hope the sound's gonna work, otherwise my presentation's over. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you where things are, you just gotta figure it out.
Okay.
There you go.
My pants are probably gonna get you.
That's okay. I can't fit in there, so I'm glad you're here to help me.
What if this happens again?
It happens all the time.
Then how do you fix it?
I can get on my knees and it's not fun.
This is
Here's
hard
the
on my
for me. You got it. It's not bad, right? You put them both up there. Good job. You ready?
Can I
Can you
get
get the next one? No, I got two more. Why do you think I have you here? I don't want to work. I have you to do it. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yucky's good. It's yucky.
That's Hey guys, do we have some cleaning to do? Please don't tell me I have to clean. Stop bossing me then.
Don't tell them about the labor department. So, we're working today. What are we doing?
Yeah, we're working on the dark ride. We did all of that. I took all the screws out and left under it. And the boss pulled it up and then he changed the new wire. And now we're changing the gun because that's the part
Papa is bad and Greek.
taking out all of the screws.
Good job, buddy. But listen, it wasn't all bad. I fed him. Hot dog and cheese fries. And instead of having to pay him, I just had to make him a toy. And I didn't have to buy it, I could make it.
Also, this is just a test.
So he was into Frozen, so I made him a Frozen Elsa, so we 3D printed it. I wish I could fast forward, but that's her dress on the bottom. Her head's gonna come last. I think we're doing okay. It's great. Cheapest employee ever. Back to work. Ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. Pull it down harder. Watch you don't scratch the paint. Yes. Keep it nice. He goes, is it bad? I said, yes, it'll be bad. Pay attention to what you're doing. Now pull down. There you go. You got it. See? Now it's loose. That's it. Just keep taking that out. We gotta change the. What are we doing?
Changing the Phoenix's lap bar. Did you forget the lap bar?
Nope. Lap bar's gonna stay the same. We have the coil here. We're gonna change the coil.
I can do it with one hand.
It's getting hot. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah. And what?
Good. Put the lap bars down for winter. We're just checking for winter maintenance, right, guys? Good job. Good job, boys. Anyway, he's got to get a little stronger, but they're getting there. And what makes this special for me is that I get to work with my family every day. So that's my father on the forklift, my brother and I. There's always dogs around, that's Ringo. That's my mother and my niece refinishing their Zoltar. My son again taking more stuff apart. Hopefully put it back together, I gotta check that. My mother is always at the Wonder Wheel. You can say hello, that's my mom's age, she's always there. And you wanna see pride, a father's pride in the son? You won't see it when he thinks about me, but watch when he looks at the dog.
Pretty high.
That's Abby.
Abby. She jumps high.
She jumps high. Yeah, I rebuilt the whole PLC from scratch. She jumps high. Anyway, it's you know, I get to work with my family, so it's not all bad. And that's my mother putting the witch together. I told you guys look alike. You mind posing? Oh, I got booze on that one. But she was a good sport, so. But I'll skip the next couple. We don't need that. So, from the bottom of my heart, guys, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.